Hi, I'm Martin Miller, and you're listening in time.
Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of In Time UK. Today we're joined with YouTube sensation Martin Miller, fantastic guitarist and a player who has hosted countless incredible names on his YouTube channel and achieved so many things in the industry. How are you doing today, mate?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Not too.
Good, yeah.
Are you all quarantined up there?
We are,
We
yeah.
We have an announcement tonight. God knows what that's going to be about.
Oh, yeah. Right. So you guys are from Birmingham, is that right?
Yeah,
That's
but
right, yeah.
UK. We're
I
both.
thought it.
Yeah.
I remember
That's
7:30
yeah.
for you guys.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, we currently we're both studying music at uni at the moment, which I guess brings us on to our first question. On your website and like all over the internet, it's cited that you attended a music school in Germany, and which you now lecture at. That's correct, yeah?
That's right, yeah. I went to Dresden College of Music, Karl Maria von Weber, and I've been going there as a student for 5 years, from late 2004 to early 2010, a little more than 5 years, and then I became a teacher there in 2015. So came full circle, yeah. I've been back in as long as I've been out after I graduated now, so I'm feeling kind of old.
So what is it like that originally drew you to that college? Because I mean, I guess everyone starts guitar somewhere, but I guess there's usually a choice along the way that takes you from, oh, this is a hobby to this is going to be a career. Like, so what choice was that? How did you figure out that you were going to be a guitarist?
Like the initial spark for picking up the guitar, I think, came from my father's record collection. There was always music played around the house, guitar-driven music, old rock classics, Pink Floyd, that type of stuff. And I got really into guitar music early on. I was a big-time Nirvana fan, big-time Metallica fan, big-time Rolling Stones fan very early on. And then one day we always had an acoustic guitar around the house, but one day my cousin brought an electric guitar home, and that was it. It's just I connected with that instrument on an emotional level immediately. I didn't pick one up right away, but I knew I wanted to down the line. So eventually got a tiny electric guitar, which I still own. It's full of Teletubby stickers, believe it or not. And and I actually, in order to get I always was drawn to the sound of distortion, and we only had a hi-fi system at home, and hi-fi systems don't lend themselves to distortion, right? They're supposed to be distortion free. So the only way to get distortion out of it, my guitar was plugged into it, was to crank that thing up to 11. And I actually blew my dad's speakers in doing so. So that was fun. That was my first rock and roll experience. And then started taking lessons on a more serious level, started getting into school band, was improving a lot, and then got big time, super passionate about Dream Theater, the band Dream Theater. So, and then got so much into practice and music around that time that I knew that's what I wanted to do in life.
Fair enough, yeah. So I guess in your playing, I guess there's quite a huge jazz influence, or jazz fusion influence.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the first videos that I saw of you personally, you did a cover in the studio band of Blue and Green by Miles Davis and Bill Evans.
Oh, yeah.
So is that something that you got into through the school, or has that always been a love of yours?
I've gone to a conservatory for 5 or 6 years before music college, and I had a jazz teacher there. So he knew the rock and roll stuff that I was into, but he was also big time into jazz, and we had big band and jazz ensemble and all those types of things. So I was at first kind of forced into that, and then being 16 years old, I discovered Mike Stern.
Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of my gateway drug, because he has this huge Jimi Hendrix influence. And that's something that I could relate to, but it also had all the jazz vocabulary in it and the funk rhythms. So the funk rhythms are kind of a neat transition between the rock and roll rhythms and the jazz rhythms. So that was my gateway drug. And then I got into Pat Metheny shortly after. And then I delved into George Benson and Michael Brecker, and then dug even deeper into Oscar Peters and even Art Tatum, and those super virtuoso jazz players. And yeah, that was all. Then that became part of my DNA eventually.
So I mean, one thing led to another, and then you started posting YouTube videos. But like when you look back on your older YouTube videos, it's like generally just sort of covers of songs. It looks more like a practice diary,
Yeah.
like like a benchmarking thing. Was there ever the plan to become this like this big YouTuber as a guitarist?
That's an interesting question. I think one thing kind of led to another, but there was a point in my life right after I graduated. That'll be interesting for you guys since you say you go to music university, right?
Yeah.
Um, there was a time after graduating where I just didn't know what to do, and I had like 1 or 2 days of teaching at a private music school. And those don't pay well in Germany, especially in East Germany, where I'm from. Those don't pay well. And got really frustrated with that. And I also did some gigs on the weekend, like function gigs. And I thought to myself, I developed this kind of apathy towards all of that. And I was like, this cannot be it. So I bought myself a cheap camera and I started making some videos, got some positive feedback. And I was like, wow, people respond to what I'm doing. It was at the time it was nothing, but at the time it felt like a big deal to me. So I started working on a solo record as well. I always wanted to put that out. So I put up with a lot of financial shortcomings over that period just to get some music out and get some videos out. And at the time, YouTubing wasn't really that big a deal. There was very few people who were doing it at a professional level. So if you were uploading one video a month, that was already a lot. So it wasn't a race back then like it is now. But yeah, at the time I was just putting up whatever I was working on at the time. I was just putting it out there to get some feedback for it. But there was no greater plan to it. There was no greater plan to the session band format either, to be honest. I can tell you how that happened. We were put together, Felix, the drummer, and I were put together to play on the same stage at the Ibanez Guitar Festival in 2016. And I was always a big fan of Felix. I've heard of him way before he heard of me. And we were built to play together. And so I brought my keyboard player along that I've known for a long time, Marius Leicht. Brought him along. At the time, we played with a different bass player. But the thing is, they filmed that gig and they sent me the material. And I was like, wow, this is really killing. But what about the video quality and the audio quality? Can you send me the raw data so I can make something decent out of it? And said, no, we don't have any of that. Okay. And so I was like, there's a lot of potential here. Let's try to get these guys in an actual studio and record it for real. And then we filmed a bunch of tunes of mine. We also filmed the Blue and Green video that you mentioned. And I remember there was a 2-day session, and at the end of the second day, we had like an hour left to film. I was like, why don't you play something? Well, let's do Little Wing. You sing, Benny. And then that video took off all of a sudden, and that's also how one thing led to another. There's just no greater plan behind it. It was just being persistent and just keep doing stuff, and eventually throw stuff at the wall and something will stick.
Yeah, cool. I mean, at our university, your studio sessions videos are like, honestly, it's like as soon as it comes out, it's like everybody's talking about it. It's just like, nice. I guess like starting out as just a band that was put together. Did you ever have plans to like take that into like a public touring band, writing original material with those guys, and make it a full-on project, or was it always just predominantly being like a studio sessions kind of thing?
So the original session, we've mostly done originals of mine, actually.
Oh, yeah, of course.
So that was the idea, to play a bunch of originals of mine and then throw in a cover or two. And funnily enough, the cover is the one that got the most attention. So I thought, well, let's get together again. And at the time, Marius was building his new studio with his band, so they had a studio place to offer, which is where we're doing our videos now. They just built that at the time. And I thought, well, the Little Wing cover was pretty big, and I don't have any new originals to perform, so let's just do a bunch of covers. And I couldn't nail it down to one Pink Floyd song that I wanted to do, so I thought, well, let's do a medley on Pink Floyd. And I didn't know that would become a thing. It was just there was no plans for touring, no plans for doing covers, no plans for doing originals. There was no plan at all. It was just a bunch of really nice coincidences. But I think they're not really coincidences, because you attract your own luck, right?
Yeah, you're working
by trying stuff out and by being courageous and just doing something.
So I mean, like with that, everything. I mean, one thing led to another, and now it's like it's a really big series that everyone looks forward to checking the next episode out. But then you've managed to get some really high profile guitarists. Just to name a few: Mark Lethierry, Paul Gilbert, Josh Smith. I mean, we had Mark Lethierry on as our first guest on this podcast.
Nice. Oh, that's a good premiere, man.
Yeah, I know he's a really nice guy. But we also spoke to him about him featuring on your studio session.
Oh, what did he say?
He said he didn't want to do Purple Rain to start with because he really didn't want to.
Yeah, it's true.
I think because he thinks so highly of Prince, which is rightfully so. But so like when it comes to when it comes to like meeting your guitarist, so you've got Mark Lethierry, you've got Paul Gilbert. What do you take into consideration when you're choosing what song you're going to cover with them?
Yeah, so that's an interesting question. Generally speaking, as a band, I try to, like, we have to obviously meet on a middle ground between what is natural to us and what is natural to them. But generally speaking, I want to move a little bit towards them.
Yeah.
So like the stuff we played with Mark Lethierry, I'm not going to spoil what other stuff we recorded, but we mostly released all the rock stuff now, and the rest of the stuff that's coming up is more in the funk pop idiom, generally speaking. With Paul Gilbert, naturally, it's going to lend itself a bit more towards classic rock gem type scenarios. This is just one camera just crept out. Is that all right?
It's okay.
Yeah. So with Paul Gilbert, it lends itself more towards classic rock material. So we did a Rush cover. We did a Stevie Wonder cover, but Superstition is really a rock tune. Jeff Beck made it popular. So with Tom Quayle, we did a lot of jazz fusion. With Josh Smith, we played some bluesy stuff like John Mayer and what else did we play? Sultans of Swing and Never Walk Alone by Steve Lukather, which is also kind of a bluesy tune. So generally speaking, we try to find a middle ground and lean a little bit towards what the guest is comfortable with, I would say. Yeah. Okay. With Andy Timmons, we did Still Got the Blues, which is like melodic rock. That is his comfort zone. That's the thing he's the master at.
I guess with all of that as well, are there any artists you're still really wanting to work with?
Oh God, the list is endless. Are you kidding me? That's actually it's kind of funny when I spoke about not having a plan, but then things took off. Well, now there is a plan, and now the plan is to keep going and keep growing. And really, this is just a really nice excuse. This YouTube channel is to get to meet all my heroes.
Yeah.
So I definitely want to have at some point have Steve Lukather on there and have John Petrucci on there, and yeah.
Oh my heroes. Hopefully that all happens as well.
Steve Morse would be nice.
Oh yes, Steve Morse is fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, down the line, of course, that will happen. It's such a great show. I guess some of the songs that you cover are done by such insanely talented guitarists, like you said, Sultans of Swing. You've got Martin Knopfler, you've Still Got the Blues, Gary Moore, and guys like that. Do you ever feel do you ever feel pressure in covering those songs? The fans are like obviously eagle-eyed onto your playing, and everyone in the room, are we going to do it justice? And you always do, but it's always got your own spin on it, which is great. Do you ever feel pressure behind that?
I do feel pressure behind it, but not so much for the critics or anything. I feel kind of pressure for myself, and the reason being is that this project, like one of those studio sessions, can easily cost $10,000 to make. And when we do like 5 to 8 videos per session, and one of those sessions is $10,000 to make, there's 14 people in the room when that happens. There's so much preparation that goes into this. There's so much logistics, and there's just so much going on, and we end up having three maximum 4 takes on something. If you don't get a good take, all of that is down the drain. So really the pressure is with ourselves, doing ourselves justice. That to me is the biggest pressure that I feel.
I mean, this is I suppose it's more of a songwriting question, similar to with all the studio session stuff. So you released your first album in 2013, The Other End.
Long time.
And then you did, and then you've done this sessions band in between. Then from a songwriting point, I think a lot of, I mean, maybe I don't speak for all musicians here, but I suppose the general mechanism of just learning covers is to extract information from it to apply to your own, and that's where you're drawing your influences
Absolutely.
from. But I
So
suppose,
sometimes we get that criticism where people say, why don't you do your own stuff? Well,
yeah,
first of all, we do. Second of all, why would you play covers? Well, because it's studying material, and if we can have people enjoy us perform covers on top of that, well, that's a win-win in my opinion. But you're absolutely right. Like, I learned so much doing the Queen and Genesis medleys. As for my compositional skills, it's incredible.
So I mean, between the 2013 album, The Other End, where it was quite like a prog rock fusion sort of sound, I guess.
More fusion, yeah, I guess.
And then coming into your 2020 album, are we still expecting 2020?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. I'm working on it every day.
So, like, I'm guessing the influences in the writing process must have matured like a lot more. Going into it, and then was there any trigger moments to say, right, now it's time to actually go back into album mode?
Well, yeah, so like in 2018, I started working on the new record. That was in summer 2018, and as I was just looking at the clock, and it was like, well, it's been 5.5 years since I made a record, and so I just started working on it, and I ever since got into Reaper as my DAW. I switched from Sonar to Reaper. I was getting really comfortable with that. Was doing all those covers, so I carried all that inspiration around with me. And I just loaded up a project, put on a drum loop, and started playing. And the very first thing that I played is now a song called Left Inside. And it's the guitar motif in the song. So when the record is out, you can cross-reference. This was the very first thing I improvised to the drum loop that I put in, and that grew into the song. And you know, ever since, my history is that I started singing at age 31. That was in 2016. So going into this, I knew I wanted to do a vocal record, and that changed the writing process altogether.
Yeah.
That opens up so many avenues, and I feel like now I can finally do the record I always wanted to make, because all my favorite music is vocal driven, actually. Yes, I do have all the fusion background and stuff, but my passion is with progressive rock music, and that's the record I'm able to do now. Yeah.
Have you found it difficult, changing from an instrumental album to a vocal album? Have you found yourself writing like different things? Is it a new process that you've gone through to get this kind of new sound, or are you still like using those old kind of composition methods?
No, it's a completely different style that I'm going for now. I'm not trying to be as clever anymore. And I think of it more from an aesthetic perspective now. I think from music, I want to have this sound, I want this sound, and then I want that sound to drop, and I want to go from something low to something high or something. I think more in these aesthetic measures, whereas before I was thinking more in chord changes and time signatures and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I'm thinking a bit more from an aesthetic point of view, and kind of like any song on that record. It's 6 songs, but the record is 48 minutes long, so it's long songs. But any one of those songs is inspired by one of my favorite bands in one way or another, and I wrote with kind of these bands in mind, and that made it fairly simple to write. This record pretty much wrote itself. It's very easy to write. Now to produce it and record it and mix it, it's kind of a different story. But the writing process was pretty quick.
Yeah, I mean, fair play. I mean, that's really cool to hear. I guess. So when writing this kind of material, are you is it completely solo jamming yourself, or are you jamming with the band, jamming with the guys, and kind of getting ideas with them, and working as an ensemble?
Oh no! First of all, I'm not using the entirely same band. I have a different drummer on my record.
Okay.
And the whole record is conceived in this very room.
Oh, brilliant! Okay.
Yeah, so it's me in isolation, regardless of whatever pandemics are torturing the world. So I'm locking myself up. The only instrument I need is a computer.
Mm-hmm.
That is literally the only thing. I don't even need a guitar. I'm actually writing a lot less with the guitar on this record and a lot more with the keyboard. So that's something that has changed for sure. And again, I'm putting together notes, music, sounds, and I do that on the computer. And eventually, somebody will have to learn all this and record it, which has already happened. But that's how it is. It's all from my mind into the computer, and then out to the players and back into the computer, if you will.
I guess the lockdown situation hasn't affected you too much then in that way, since I suppose everything's been recorded prior to things being shut down. I mean, Germany's not really as bad as it is in the UK, anyways. But
yeah, you guys have it really bad right now, right?
Yeah, it's a bit weird.
Yeah, we've got all of our schools. Everything's been completely locked down. Hopefully, it'll get better.
Yeah, the major change for me is that my college tuition is through Skype now.
Right.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Anything else like the session band stuff I work on? We're not in recording stage right now, so I'm in mixing and editing stage. So that is at home in isolation. Making a record is at home in isolation, and teaching through Skype, which I do anyway, is at home in isolation. And I had a few gigs canceled, but it was not the end of the world. So it's a good opportunity to work on the record, quite honestly. And I keep making a living through private lessons.
Yeah. So I mean, like with making a living and all of that as well, I suppose the common guitarist, I might say, is sort of has their main stream of income through touring and something. But that's not something you're as prominent with. Like you're more of an online sensation. But are there any particular reasons that you don't tour as much as you post online, say?
It's kind of interesting. There's always phases in life. Like in 2018, there was a bit of a shortage of posts because I had a 50 gig tour, clinic tour with Ivanus together with Tom Quayle. So I think we traveled 15 countries during that period. So that was over 3 months.
Yeah.
So there are phases where I tour, but I'm not like Felix, our drummer, who tours constantly. And I haven't toured in a year actually, which honestly is fine by me. Generally speaking, I enjoy the creative process more than performing.
Yeah.
It's more my bag. I can express myself better through creating than through performing, I guess, which does not mean that I don't love performing too. I love performing, but generally speaking, like the niche that I'm working off of, you don't have like a massive audience anywhere in the world. You have a few people here, a few people there, a few people there. So whenever I tour, I cannot tour one country for too long. I have to hop countries, and that makes it extremely exhausting.
Yeah. That was Joe's.
Yeah. So touring is just on an international level, like a different country every day. It can be brutal.
No, I think that's that's what I had in my mind as well. Is when you're sort of catering to an online audience from the you're sort of it's all going to be quite widespread from the beginning. You can't really concentrate.
Yeah, there's a lot of traveling and a lot of, and I'm generally I don't enjoy the loneliness of the road.
Yeah,
especially traveling on your own. It can be quite tough mentally.
Yeah,
I've once done 2 weeks of China by myself, and that was rough. Because of the cultural differences and everything, it was rough. And at the time, there was also some private issues going on. So that was honestly one of the hardest times of my life. Is those two weeks alone in China. Yeah, that was rough.
I mean, I suppose like with all that in the past now, you've got your with your new album. Is that something you'd be looking at doing as a promotional method, just touring it and gigging with the new stuff?
I mean, that goes beyond just promoting it. That just inherently, I want to play that music to people.
Yeah.
So that's something I definitely want to do down the line. Yeah, and tour that music, but not just for the economic aspect of promoting it. I really want just to experience what it feels like to play that music in a room to other people.
Yeah.
Because I've worked on that music for such a long time. I really want to see how people react to it in the moment.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, one thing actually, I wanted to sort of go back on ourselves a little bit about your teaching as well. So you also do like a hybrid picking masterclass online, and you do a few other things like that. So, but as well as teaching at university college level in Germany, what sort of do you have like a specific approach to teaching in music? Because I suppose the way I'm thinking of it is that everyone's got a different interpretation of it. So it must feel like whatever take you do, someone else isn't going to understand it, or.
So I got very, my online stuff in general is a little bit different from the private lessons and the lessons in college.
Yeah.
The private lessons and the college lessons usually go much deeper. There's one product I released on JTC called the Improvisation Masterclass, and this is probably the closest of my online products that you can get as like a private lesson with me.
Right.
I'm very inspired by, and I'm sure you guys can relate because you go to music university. You hang out with a lot of non-guitar players, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Or are you guys even guitar players? You're a bass player, it seems.
Oh, I've got a bass, but I've got a guitar as well right behind.
You're both guitar players?
Yeah, both guitar players.
Yeah. So, but you hang out with a lot of non-guitar players.
Yeah.
And you attend a lot of classes that are not only guitar players, that are mixed, any instrument group. So I get very inspired by that. Like, I always thought to myself, why does any music school, any conservatory produce so many virtuoso piano players? And why are there so few virtuoso guitar players in comparison to that?
Yeah.
Or the violin or the saxophone? Like those instruments they're much older than the electric guitar, but they're generally performed at such a ridiculously high level.
Yeah.
And also there seems to be less confusion and less misconceptions about the way the instrument should be played and the way music works within the communities of those instrument groups. Like, to be blunt, there's just so much bullshit out there on electric guitar education that it's quite mind-blowing at times. I don't know if you agree. Like, if I were a young guitar player, there's all these fishy websites that offer these weird-ass courses that cost you hundreds and hundreds of dollars or euros or pounds or whatever, and they end up teaching you some weird half-baked nonsense. Yeah. And I'm being very harsh here, but that's generally how I feel about it. Like, you gotta be very, unfortunately, with the internet is a blessing and a curse, right? Yeah. But there's so many misconceptions out there, and I don't feel there's as many misconceptions as with other instrument groups. So I got very inspired by looking at how saxophone is being taught, how piano is being taught, etc. And I try to apply these universal principles, these fundamental principles to the guitar. So my idea is to teach people as fundamentally as possible. That means as slow and thorough as possible, which is a slower process. Like, it's not, here's a bunch of chords, enjoy yourself. I'd rather teach somebody how chords are constructed.
Yeah.
So which is I'm not a good teacher if you just want to if you're very young or you're not too interested in guitar playing. I'm not a good teacher for that, honestly, because I have a very hard time dialing back my ambitions that I have for myself when it comes to teaching somebody else.
No, I agree, like, wholeheartedly. There's so much out there where it's like, this is how to learn guitar in a month or in 30 minutes.
Yeah, and I always ask myself, what's the rush? Why would you have to learn in a month?
It's about loving the process, isn't it? You got to enjoy the process of learning.
Another thing I think with those kind of videos is that you see like adverts on YouTube and it says, learn your favorite songs without learning the boring theory. And I kind of think, what kind of attitude is that to learn an instrument when that theory is gonna one day maybe make you into a brilliant musician? Just simply learning how to build a chord. It's a simple.
This reminds me of back in high school where everybody was just, it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy, but everybody keeps telling you, oh, math sucks, man. Math is gonna be awful. Go into it thinking math is gonna be awful, but actually, and I thought so in school that math was awful, but now that I think of it, now that I look from it from a more mature perspective, I'm thinking, you know what? If I got it, I could see myself getting into math and becoming really good at it.
Yeah.
If I see it as a challenge,
Yeah.
I think that's where it sort of stemmed from for me. I was always more of a maths guy back in school, so it's just like it just always occurred to go for the hardest thing you can. But
I've also been a language guy.
Yeah.
Myself, not a not a maths person at all. Yeah.
What sort of languages did you go for?
I did have Latin in school for about 8 years or so.
Right.
English, obviously, and Spanish.
Oh, right, wow.
Yeah.
No more than me then. No more languages than I do.
And I do speak fluent German, I might say.
I'm saying German. So one thing you actually mentioned earlier on, just when you're talking about teaching, virtuosos. What do you think makes a virtuoso up? Because we've got, with the internet, we've got access to so many different guitarists out there now. And anyone that's a professional in their field, it's probably easy to call them a virtuoso. But do you think the bar's been set even higher now as to what's considered a virtuoso?
Yeah, it's getting set higher by the day, and part of that is the online culture, or a big part of that. It also has to do with the fact that our online profiles are a highlight reel, right?
Yeah.
We don't show our bad sides. We show only the polished. Mm-hmm. The polish. So if you don't get to see the bad take, you only get to see the good take. But generally speaking, the bar has gotten ridiculously high. So the guitar players are definitely catching up with the other instrument groups when it comes to consistently creating one virtuoso player after the other. Yeah.
No, I think it's sort of pushing the sound in so many different directions as well.
Like with virtuoso, it's virtuoso and professional is something different. I think you can be a professional without being a virtuoso.
I agree with that. Actually, I think that's where there can be a blurred line with it as well, where someone can very easily mistake someone for being a virtuoso when they're just a professional at the trade, and not saying they're bad, but they're.
There's not a statement of quality at all.
No, yeah.
There's non-virtuoso players that I love to listen to.
Yeah.
More so than a lot of virtuoso players.
Yeah. I think with everyone's got their sort of pros and cons with it as well. With virtuosos, you can very much fall in the trap of the sound sort of starts getting quite samey, maybe. But I don't know. That's probably personal opinion there.
The definition of a virtuoso is somebody who's highly technically accomplished.
Yeah.
So we've got to be careful with the definition here, because virtuoso is not just any guitar player that I enjoy then gets the virtuoso check, right? There's guitar players that I enjoy that I wouldn't consider virtuosos.
Right.
Yeah.
Of course, yeah. I guess one of the things that I find in our education in Britain, like at our university, for example, I mean, the whole first year of our degree course is essentially trying to get everybody on the same level. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that's really possible, because, you've got your monster shred metal guys, you've got your blues gods, and then you've got absolute crazy jazz improvisation guys. So I think that the idea of getting everybody to one level where they're playing the same thing, I don't think I agree with that. That's why I think virtuosity is such an interesting thing, because you can achieve it. There's people that have achieved it at such a young age now. It's like you said, it's the bar is so high, but I think that's because it's easier than ever. You've got all these videos on YouTube teaching you how to become incredible at any instrument. The bar is just so unattainably high now because there's millions of brilliant players, isn't there?
It also has to do, I think, with there's just this sense of competition. Like when I was coming up, I was raised in a village. The only other guitar players I knew were the ones that went to conservatory with me, and the level there compared to today it's ridiculously low. So I didn't really have. There was maybe one other guy that was as ambitious as I was, and anybody else was just in it for playing a couple of chords. So we didn't have a point of reference to go from. Like I was walking around thinking I was the greatest guitar player of all times, because there was just nobody else around me that was a good player. And then you move to a big city and you see all these other people, and you get a reality check, and you understand, holy shit, I've barely scratched the surface here. And the internet kind of provides that, because the bar sets high and because it creates this illusion, because everybody's, or not everybody's, but a lot of people's playing nowadays is, as I said, it's curated and it's photoshopped to a degree, right? So you get the sense of when you start out as, well, this is what I'm supposed to sound like. Whereas for me, what I was supposed to sound like was play 4 chords and not screw up. that was already considered. That was the bar, right? And now the bar is so mind-blowingly high, and you have this point of reference that you're supposed to work towards, and I think that inspires a lot of hard work.
Yeah, for sure. I guess you mentioned there that when you were at school, there wasn't like that many guitarists and like people that were as ambitious as you. You've also mentioned that you've worked a lot with Tom Quell, and like loads of people know about that. I guess when you first met Tom, was that kind of like an instant click, because you've done so much work with him and it always seems to be like such a high level? Was that kind of something that was instantly there?
Yeah, I mean, Tom is a good example, because like if Tom had gone to conservatory at the same time as I was, and he's 4 years older than me, and I would have seen him play, and I was like, holy shit! In 4 years, I want to be at that level. That would have inspired me to work very, very hard, right? Yeah. So Tom, I met online through MySpace. That's how old we are. There was a guitar competition in the UK called Guitar Idol at the time. He was making an entry, and I stumbled across this video. It was just super cheap webcam quality, and I was like, "Oh, another one of those fusion guys. Let's have a listen." I was like, "Oh, there's something else going on here. There's a lot of substance there," and it quite frankly blew me away the way he played. It's entirely unique, his approach to the instrument, and always executed. There is a guy who doesn't need any Photoshop. Like, you can take anything he ever plays is polished and finished. Like any video of him you see is completely unedited and is probably first take. It's ridiculous how consistent he is. So that's something I find very admirable about it. But yeah, so when I found out who he was, I was instantly messaging him on MySpace, and we kept messaging back and forth every once in a while. Kept meeting at like NAMM and Musikmesse and these types of events, and eventually we got booked on the same bill at a jazz festival in Italy, and they suggested we play something together for the people as like a closer of the night or something. So we started playing jazz duets, and that clicked so well that we just kept doing it.
So that's an amazing story. I mean, yeah, I sort of faintly remember MySpace still, but the thing you mentioned about his approach to music, and how it's so whole, like what would you say? Do you have a description of your own approach to harmony and music in general?
Wow, I've never even thought of that. Do you have a known approach? I don't think I have a unique approach to music and harmony. I just try to have a really good understanding of the academia.
Yeah.
And the general ideas, the logic behind music. Yeah. So that. If I have an approach, it's that I try to master the academia and the logic first, and so then I get to express myself. Mm-hmm. I do have a specific approach to music on an aesthetic level, the way I think music should sound and should be put together. But the harmony and the technicality behind it, I would say, is by the book.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And the better I understand the book, the better I can make use of these tools.
Yeah, of course. I guess when you are composing, like for your new album, for example, do you reference theory whilst writing, or is it more of a writing and then, add a bit of theory to it? I don't know how to word this really. I guess we asked Mark the same question.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like, when composing music, are you citing theory and thinking about interesting concepts whilst writing, or is it more of that sounds incredible? What am I working out what you're doing after getting it down, if you know what I mean?
I don't think there's necessarily a hard line between those two.
Yeah.
Those two things. It's again kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Because you know theory, you're drawn towards certain sounds, and when you hear certain sounds, you can put a name to them. So that's really interesting. I think that the amount of theory and knowledge I have informs what I hear in my head in the first place, because I've been exposed to certain sounds and I've analyzed them and understood them, and therefore my intuitive decision making is already influenced by that. So I can't. It's not like I can't engage the theory muscle if I think it happens especially like usually in the writing process there's an intuitive stage where you just come up with something, and then there is kind of a technical stage where you need to polish it or you need to find a certain solution. I can tell you, for example, there's one part in my album where I had a section in E major and I had a section in C minor, and I knew I wanted to get back to the theme in E major, but at the time I was in C minor. So I was actively engaging my theory muscle because I have a bunch of tools that I know I can use to lead me from C minor to E major.
Yeah.
So that is a good example of how we'd actively apply the theory. Other than that, it's usually intuitive, but certain decisions I only make because I know theory, even if I don't think actively about it.
I guess that's really interesting. We've got a lecturer called Tom Ford, who is like a really incredible jazz guy, and his theory knowledge is like yourself. It's up there, and like we can't at our level we can't really comprehend some of the things he talks about. But it's like we sit there in the lesson, and he'll show us a new concept, and it's like suddenly everything that we seem to play for that next week is just that, and it's everything right is that. And I just love that idea of learning something new, and then suddenly it's just ingrained, and you can always, you've got this arsenal of tricks and concepts.
Yes. It's a tool bag. Yeah.
Yeah, it's brilliant. It's such a great way of composing.
Which is why I don't understand how some people are a bit apprehensive about learning theory, like it's going to make them a worse musician. That's never, ever going to happen. Yeah. I don't think... I've never heard a compelling argument against learning theory, to be honest. Yeah, you don't need a ton of theory. There's a bunch of guys who genuinely don't need it. Those who were exposed to music at an extremely young age, in particular. That isn't to say that music theory would help them progress even more. But yeah, some guys definitely don't need it.
Yeah,
I need it because I wasn't a prodigy by any means. I had to work through it all to get to where I am.
No, I think that's I agree with that definitely. I think one thing I want to touch on as well kind of goes between both the theory thing and your album that's coming out. So maybe this is getting slightly technical, but with producing the sound for your latest album, I know you've got your signature MM1, but was there something like you applied constraints to yourself to try and get like a continuity going between each song, so that nothing sounds too far apart from each other, but they're still separate songs?
That was a big challenge, actually. Because you have a bunch of cluttered up ideas. How do you turn it into one cohesive record? And especially there's like two types of approaches to my record, and or two sides of it to the new one. The one is the very produced side, with a ton of layers and overdubs and layered electronic drum beats along to the acoustic drums and that kind of stuff. And then there's moments and songs where it just sounds like a band playing.
Right.
And unifying those two approaches was very hard. So yeah, I'm generally sticking to a select few guitar tones.
Yeah.
That kind of seems to tie things together very nicely. We used the very same drum sound and drum tuning for the entire record. That was very important to glue things together. And we used a different snare drum for one song. The rest is the same kit, the same setup, same miking, same everything. And I tend to like when I work out a lot of like keyboard sounds and stuff like that. I usually when I write a new song, I usually go for those that I worked out in the first place. Go back to those and take it from there. Yeah, to get some cohesion from song to song. That was honestly the biggest challenge, to make all those songs sound like one record. My first record sounds like it's like a different record. Every song's a different record. But this new record, I made a big effort to make it sound like one artistic vision, one product.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, I guess you've also was this always something did you ever have any issues with sort of writing parts for instruments that you're not as proficient on, say. So I've never really taken you too much for a keys player, as much of a guitarist, but I guess when it comes to a production point, you're going to be layering it a lot with stuff like that.
Yeah, and honestly, I wish I had paid more attention in my piano classes because that is always an obstacle. Honestly, that's the biggest time-consuming obstacle I face is my lack of piano skills because I come up with the ideas I come up with are so much more interesting and inspiring to me when I sit on the keyboards and just push some keys down, have a good sound, and just this is great. It's so much more inspiring to me than strumming a guitar for some reason. I don't know, at least from a compositional perspective. So yeah, I definitely wish I had better piano skills. And right now I'm taking a ton of voice lessons, trying to become a better singer. But down the line, for the next record, I definitely want to become a better key player.
Okay, no,
and not to perform, just to write, just to get the ideas from here to the computer.
I guess that naturally pushes you into a different sound as well, because the whole approach with melodies and rhythm with the keyboard will just sort of take it away from what a guitar can produce anyway.
Most of what I write it was away from any instruments, just on the computer. And it must look awful when you watch me doing it, but what I usually do is, first of all, I always write my songs chronologically. I know a lot of professional composers who have like outlines of their music.
Yeah.
It's going to go from here to here, from here to here, but I haven't written that yet, but this is what it's roughly going to be. I cannot do that. I cannot move on unless my idea is finished.
Yeah.
It's really bizarre, but I always go from start and I work the song from start to finish, and I keep adding to whatever is the current end point.
Yeah.
It's the way I do it. And or was I going with this? Yeah, and the way I do it oftentimes is I have the space bar for start and stop, right? So I'll listen. Okay, stop. I'll listen. Because I'm going to do that 20 times over until I have an idea for a continuation in my head. There's a huge advantage to composing in your head, and because there's a chance you'll come up with a finished idea in your or an almost finished idea or complete idea in your mind, because in your mind you can hear drums, bass, keyboards, guitars, percussion, vocals. You can hear it all at the same time.
Yeah.
So your imagination is incredible. So sometimes being away from any instrument, just letting your imagination go is what ignites the best idea.
No, I think that's gone to.
Of course, I guess like you said with the working out keys and stuff, it's simply a case of pushing your hands down and finding a great sound. And it does seem to happen so much more often with a keyboard or a piano than it does with a guitar. I feel like it's so much easier to find an inspiring sound. I guess that's kind of due to, maybe pianos are more, and strings and synth is more prominent in cinematic music maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess you've always got kind of a head start because of that theory knowledge, haven't you? So, even with a lack of maybe technical ability on a keyboard, you still know your chords, you still know your scales. So that's all, all happens in there. It's just translating it onto the instrument is the difficult part.
I actually think the fact that I know the guitar fretboard so well is holding me back, because as I think of intervals on the guitar fretboard. So when I'm on the piano, I go that extra step through the guitar fretboard, and it's just holding me back like crazy. Yeah. So I think if I could start with a clean slate, I would be a potentially better piano player.
That's spot on. I think we'll look forward to hearing what's to come. I mean, also we'll look at wrapping it up now. But is there anything more you can tell us about the album? When the first single's coming out? When release dates?
Well, I'm currently in the stage like everything is written, all the instruments are recorded. It's pretty much mixed. What is still missing is vocals and lyrics. So I got one song that has finished vocals on it. The other songs are still in the lyric writing and vocal recording process. And right now I have a bit of a bad voice, so I have to take some time off. Probably have to take a week off, so that slows everything down. And yeah, so that's the current status. I'm not going to give any release dates until I know for sure. And even when the record is done, I'm gonna hold it back for a while, make sure I have a nice release plan, make sure I have enough content to go to sustain the promotion for a while. So I think in 2 to 4 months' time it should be out, and hopefully, but no promises there.
I've got one quick question before we finish up. Just something that you've reminded me there. Once you've finished the album, like perhaps an example is your last album. Do you ever listen to the tunes back, before release, and think, oh, I wish I'd have done this and I wish I'd have done that? And how do you get past that? Because that's something that I struggle with personally. When I've finished the tune and it's produced the MP3 files there, and I listen back and I think, no, there should be something more.
I don't put the finished check mark on there if it still gives me that feeling.
Yeah.
So honestly, for this record, I stand behind every song that is on there, start to finish, and with every performance as well. You can ask my drummers how much of a hard ass I'm to work with in the studio, because I cannot deal with compromises on my own record. Like, for example, if we're doing the session band stuff, it's like, let's play that song. Everybody play whatever they want, right? It's that kind of thing. But with my own record, I'm very specific. And like Benny, the bass player, like he'll know. Sometimes I have him re-record a part for me because one note is a little too long. I'd like to have it a little more staccato to give it that feeling that I intended, right? That I can't even describe it. I'm just probably too used to my demos or something. It's probably that, but I don't release the song unless I'm 100% happy with it. I'm not one to make compromises. I suck at that. Which is, I guess, why I ended up doing another solo record.
No, I guess it makes it all the more personal. But no,
my old record. Now listening back to my old record,
yeah,
I did it with that same intent. But now listening back to it, it's like that record is made by a different person. Like, I feel pretty much detached from that. I guess it's an instrumental guitar record, and that's a record I never really wanted to make in the first place. It's something I thought I had to make because I'm a guitar player. I got to have an instrumental guitar record. But that's not the music I grew up listening to. So what I think the record I'm doing now is much closer to like a modernized version of the music I grew up listening to.
I think I'm definitely looking forward to that. It's just it just sounds like it's a much more matured version of everything we were talking about as well, just from your songwriting point. No, but thanks for joining us, Martin. It's been great talking to you. But yeah, if for everyone listening, if you enjoyed, feel free to subscribe. We're on all streaming platforms as well: Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube. So yeah, just share it about and stay tuned for more. Brilliant. Cheers, Martin.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.